Hello everyone, this is a video for February 2025, pardon. Let's say right away that the first half of February is tense, while from the 14th day of the month the tension decreases. The first part of the month is in the spirit of Aquarius energy, which dominated the second half of January as well. The air element was strong and continues to be in the second half of February. The water element is emphasized later because we will have many planets and events in the Pisces. This practically means that in the second half of the month, reason leaves us and we surrender to the unknown waters of collective feelings, symbolized by Pisces, which lead to chaos or purification. As to whom? The end of January and the first half of February is the period when the Sun is in Aquarius, and that is ideal period of the year for revolutions, as maybe you know, and as it happened in last century. There was one very big February revolution. Since then we are careful about Aquarian time. But definitely many things are happening now also in many countries of the world. The mainstream does not talk much about that, but it is true. So on the 12th of the month is the full moon in Leo, on the 28th is the new moon in Pisces. Sun is until the 18th in Aquarius, then in Pisces, Mercury until the 14th in Aquarius, then in Pisces, Venus until the 4th in Pisces and after that in Aries. Mars is retrograde in the sign of Cancer or Crab, I will sometimes use this, sometimes that name, and it's retrograde until the 23rd. Jupiter is direct from the 4th of the month in Gemini. Saturn is in Pisces. Uranus is in Taurus, and it's very, very slow. It's direct, but it's going very slow now. And Neptune is in Pisces as Pluto is in Aquarius. On the first day of the month, Venus and Neptune are in exact conjunction in Pisces, which brings bliss. This is the word that we almost forgotten. We don't use it that much. Meanwhile, the north node of the moon is in Pisces. And the Saturn is also in Pisces in a week trying to retrograde Mars in Cancer, which brings a certain fragile state. As a collective, we are quite sensitive, even too sensitive. Many want to believe that here there is a salvation on the earth for us, but February is the month when we have to face the fact that some damage has been done and cannot be repaired. Therefore, the original state of bliss has its profound opposites. This is the beginning of the month. From February the 4th, Jupiter ends its retrograde phase and became direct. And this brings a refreshment in communication and transportation and enables some lovely exchange with others. And it is also potentially going to open more topics about schooling and manipulation with children, which are increasingly turning into horror. Some of that maybe you know, some you don't, but there are horrible things happening with children in the schools. In my opinion, this is generally the best job of Jupiter. While it's transiting Gemini sign, it is to show to the public what is done in the schools. Everywhere in the world something is happening in the kindergarten schools or universities, and maybe if some of you follows now in Serbia, students are on the streets and they're protesting, and this is now becoming a huge movement even. However, as soon as Jupiter becomes direct, it starts to square a little bit Saturn. And this is one of the most important transits of the year. And this square will gradually increase in the coming next months. And I mentioned the square of Jupiter and Saturn in my video for the year 2025. That's my general video for this year. If you are interested, maybe you will go back to that video to check that. And also it's possible that I will record something about that again. Otherwise, it should be said that Jupiter is stationary direct almost all month, while Uranus is slow, as we said. And this means that the energy is very difficult to start this month. Events are very, very slow heating up. And later in March, this will change radically because we will have solar and lunar eclipse, where everything actually can be turned opposite, like inverse, completely inverse, unexpected things can happen. On February the 4th, Venus enters the sign of Aries, and then retrograde Mars is in Cancer and squares Chiron in Aries. This is around the 4th. We mention Chiron sometimes. It's an asteroid that is very important because it speaks about self-healing. I have a bit older video about Chiron. It is on my web page, on my YouTube channel. If you write my name and Chiron in Aries, you will see the video. This square lasts unusually long because Mars is already moving very slowly, you know. So, typical Aryan themes of the awakening, especially awakening of the spring, of determination and willingness, especially to fight, you know, to achieve something. Now this all is very weak because we have indecisive and very defensive Mars in Cancer. It is possible that it has something to do with that Trump's statement that he will not attack countries that oppose America with weapons. He will do that economically, which is completely ridiculous. But generally, like, people are choosing now the tactic that is not very military. But that Trump's sanctions and tariffs and similar horrors will be paid by ordinary American citizens, of course not by Trump's friends who are billionaires. So this is why this Mars is actually self-destructive. People do things, but they actually destroy them. So that's why we should be very careful when Mars is in Cancer. Pardon? Therefore, it is possible that in America and somewhere else, people will work on some tactic that is, like for them, may be interesting, but dangerous for themselves. As Mars in Cancer also lacks self-control and it lacks strength and discipline. The narcissistic behavior, fears, and raw emotions that this Mars represents are present until the mid of April. At this time, every war tactic is wrong, basically. The solution lies in recognizing and dealing with one's own psychological, ideological, economic, and any other traumas and injuries. And it is clear that this applies both on collective and on the individual level. This Mars is a symbol of domestic conflicts, as we said in few videos already. So anything can be accepted, as in USA and also elsewhere. The problem may be that many potential internal conflicts have been underestimated and therefore can cause a great harm, or they can be used to make a great harm to somebody. Fortunately, on February the 4th, Mercury in Aquarius is in a trine with Jupiter in Gemini. So there are still ways to reasonably overcome the problems we are created now. The square of Mercury and Uranus will be exact on the 11th, and the square of the Sun and Uranus on the 12th of February. During this time, one can expect surprising news and events that they are saying that we should not wait anymore. It's time to do things. Of course, this is a very dangerous period for leaders and rulers, presidents of states, and the like, because they see that people do not listen to them, so to speak, of course. And this is why those leaders have to lie, and they do different manipulations, and that's how they actually stop listening themselves. And this can be dangerous for them, because they think they can do whatever, but it's not the case now. And right after that, on February the 12th, there is a full moon in Leo. So the Sun and Uranus with the Moon form the T-square, and retrograde Mars is still in Cancer and in tension with Chiron. This is what we have on the full moon. This Mars has some trine to Saturn, but this is not the main thing that can help. So there is a lot of pressure in the atmosphere, and some conflicts are reaching a climax. Yes, of course, egoists will fall with this, egoistic plans will collapse, or egoists will be confronted with the tremendous resistance from the side of the people. I remind you again, Leo is the king or the ruler, and rulers who are carried away by themselves and their position can really be now overthrown. Wise rulers will hide in a hole and wait for the crowd to pass. So we'll see who will do what. On a personal level, the full moon in Leo brings dramatic events to Leos themselves, people who have Sun, Ascendant, Moon in Leo, but also for all of us, because we can have tension in love relationships, in relationships with children maybe. Maybe we can have some strange encounters and feel personal limitations in the field of creativity, or we will doubt our freedom, of course. What else today? I mean, in our time. On February 15, Mercury enters the sign of Pisces, followed by the Sun on the 19th. The tension has since now slowly come down, but collective emotions are very, very strong all month and further during the March when we have eclipse time. On February 25th, Mercury is in conjunction with Saturn, and suffering comes to surface. A collective feeling of some sort of powerlessness emerges with this. The 28th is the new moon in Pisces, and then a new pattern is created for the next 6 months at least. We often talk about that. New moon creates a new pattern. And sometimes it's important for the whole year, but definitely for the 6 months. And now this new moon in Pisces will be crucial for this year, because we have lunar nodes and also eclipses on Virgo Pisces axis. We have this Saturn and Neptune that are coming out from Pisces and going back again this year. So Pisces is very, very now Pisces is now in focus of the universe, let's say. So this new moon is happening on the 9th degree of Pisces. I described it in my horoscope for Pisces for the year 2025, but as you know, not in English, unfortunately, for you if you're watching this in English. And I talked a lot about that, but definitely people who have planets in Pisces and Virgo, especially Ascendant, Moon, or Sun in Pisces or Virgo, and if those elements of the horoscope are around the 9th degree, let's say plus minus 2 degrees, for these people, very important new phase of life starts. And many of them actually already felt that new beginning in September or around September 2024. This new moon does not bring great challenges, which is fantastic. Fortunately, on the day of the new moon, there is a significant sextile between Uranus on one side and Saturn and Mercury on the other. However, those aspects are quite weak because neither of those planets is in a good position, in a good sign. Unfortunately, there is also a square with Jupiter, which is not that dangerous, but some things we can exaggerate. It will be very important to accept what has already been done with these aspects, without disappointment, and to move on. Doesn't matter how things are developing, just move on. To accept maybe some painful feelings will be needed also. Many will be faced with the fact that many things on this world have been destroyed, many people and nature also, and some of those things are permanently destroyed, unfortunately. Something can be fixed. Something can be fixed in hundreds of years, but something cannot. This is the thing that we will face this year, especially from February on. It remains, this what happened and what cannot be fixed will remain as a trace of a crazy sick civilization. Karma is going to be paid for that, of course, no matter that they deleted karma from the Bible. They did it because they don't want to pay karma themselves, but definitely I believe in karma and in this law of universe where everything is balanced. This is actually karma. So everybody will pay, but the sad thing is that the generations that come after us also will pay for all of this, which they did not nothing for on the first sight. Children are now born sick. There is more and more of this in this world, and not only because of the consequences of the jabs that people were given to in the 2020 and 2021, but also because of these earlier ones. So now in the US, children are required to have 75 jabs in a year, or no, in this growing period of them, and in European Union 48. And since we know what they are made for, try to imagine the consequences. I have this information about that, how many of them, from a friend who is a doctor. Trump had an agreement with Robert Kennedy to expose the pharmacomafia, and we will see what will happen with that. It is very hard to believe that that will go smoothly. Is he going to give up his promise? I don't know. I mentioned in my video from January that many are giving him the kingdom for the horse, and that's very, very hard to resist. Otherwise, even if there would not be jobs in these jobs in the world, humanity is being systematically destroyed by means of drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, which are given to them because it's a part of the program. And also hormonal foods, chemical medical preparation, poisons in food, poisons in the air, in the water. That's all of those things are now in the world, and that affects us more, and people are more and more sick, and unfortunately also children. Many planets in Pisces this month indicate a deep reversal regarding health policy. Be careful about this. They invented some health policy, so policy and health are together. It is not something different. It is exactly that. And it is going to be about different treatments for those who need help. This Pisces Virgo axis is the axis of healing, and there is a lot of going on this year on this axis. We do not know whether the WHO will continue to function as before or lose its power, but the struggle is great, definitely, still this year. Trump signed a lot of papers during his inauguration, and those who expected him to fight against the WHO and the Davos agenda are mostly satisfied, but there is still quite a lot of silence too. However, it seems that he is doing quite a good job for now about those topics. He also said that there are only two genders, which is more than obvious. And of course, if somebody feels different, that's okay, but we cannot teach children in the school about that, what is completely opposite from nature. He also said that Davos Green Agenda makes no sense, and it's quite important that he, as a president of a huge empire, said that. He promised and signed that he that these files about Kennedy's assassinations will be revealed. And if it is going to happen, Zionists will be in a very, very difficult position, if that is possible. As often we say now, that now we have some sort of revision of the 60s from the last century. I mentioned that in my video for the year 2025, my general video, and if you're interested, you can check that video again. Now one cycle ends, and this is the cycle of the 60s, and it's time to know the truth about that time. which was extremely important time because of conjunction of Uranus and Pluto that happened in Virgo sign. And the important years were also 64, 65, 6, 7 and 68. So now one 60-year cycle ends, which is registered by Chinese calendar. I made a video about Chinese Year of the Wood Snake. Maybe you will choose to watch it, and you will see that I mentioned that also there. That something is happening about the time of the 60s is saying also the trine of Pluto and Uranus. And this trine will be exact in summer, but it is already active and will be active for a few years. That's all what I mentioned in my 2025 video. So yes, it is time to reveal deep secrets of the 60s, which Americans know, Russians also know, but not ordinary people. On the other hand, Trump's promise to stop the war will not be fulfilled. On the contrary, he is asking the European Union to pay 5% of the total national income for NATO weapons. The USA is, in that case, preparing for war. So those who expected that wars would end with Trump, they are not satisfied now. However, you will remember that we said that the conjunction of Saturn and Neptune in Aries this year, in the summer, and next year in February, means demilitarization. And this demilitarization should happen in the future years. And it is a huge demilitarization. So, we don't know what is happening. He wants more money for the weapons, but demilitarization in some sort of it is coming, maybe if not this year, in the future years. So the big question is also whether the America is going into the war with China, because China owns them basically. All of those debts that America has that are incredibly big are mainly in the hands of Chinese government, Chinese country. I think that they will not go into the war because China will have its own proposals, which can be interesting to the empire in decline. And China certainly wants to conquer the USA slowly over centuries, step by step, not really to go into the war. While Trump is planning to enlarge the US also, we are now seeing more and more maps on the video that are marking the borders of the new states within the current state of America. So, it's a quite crazy time, but we will see. I would not be surprised if they change the borders, they separate countries first in the first phase, and then they connect them in a different way. Axis Pisces Virgo also has connections with modern invisible technology, possibly also with the virtual world, which is also connected with the archetype of Aquarius, which I will not talk about now here, but I just want to mention a few things. You are constantly entering some password somewhere, and you always have some QR codes that are constantly changing in front of your eyes, and they're all the time explaining it's for your security reasons. But all this with these passwords and QR code is actually training the human brain, especially children's brain, to obediently serve the system, to trust the algorithms, as people were in the past trusting to God. The new religion they're creating now is a sort of materialism. And this materialism is a kind of faith in nature. Nature is now the most important, that's why it is materialistic. But a person is no longer confessed by a priest, but by an algorithm. And of course, algorithm is something completely artificial and opposite from the nature that they put in front as like the thing that we should preach to. And this is why this whole plan of them is completely ridiculous. But we don't know what will happen. Let's be careful. Many of you know that I practice the technique, the change of code, the change of the perception that I developed in the last years. I often say that in my videos. So when we do this change of code, we actually do basically we do the same things as they do. We also change our codes in accord with the personal development, and we do not need IT algorithms. We do that by using our brain, let's say, and also our feelings. Both things are in this method. And in the same way as many people were doing that in the East, in the state of meditation for thousands of years. Lately, my clients often return to previous incarnations while we do this technique. Change of code, change of perception. And we work a lot with genetic inheritance. So I notice that we are all dealing with the deep, deep past. I guess it is because Saturn and Neptune are in Pisces, slowly leaving Pisces. So we can say that this may be some definite cleansing that we are all going through now. I also think, but maybe I'm wrong, that we should increasingly free ourselves from programs that are not ours, you know? This is part of that inner cleansing, because we have plenty of programs that we have from the society, from the medias, internet, education, politics, and so on. It's good to clean from that, because if we do so, we will enter into this our inner core. And of course, I guess then we will be much stronger. More about that some other time, but Pisces Sun and all other elements in this sign will bring that to light in February, definitely. And that is all for now for the month of February. If you wish, you can order this method, the change of code, the change of perception with me. We can do that. We call it consultations based on this method. We cannot use another word. Also, if you wish, you can order with me consultancy based on astrological psychology, spiritual astrology, and also based on Feng Shui. I'm actually dealing also with Feng Shui, and as this month I was speaking about Chinese year, I had some public lectures on that, so we talked more about Feng Shui. So if you're interested to arrange your space according to the School of the Flying Star, which talks about the energy of this year, you can also arrange consultations with me. If you like the video, like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel, and thank you very, very much for that. I wish everyone luck in February, acceptance of changes without big illusions, and successful work on yourself. And see you soon.